What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to Salty Runback, here to be your weekly intake of North American Developmental League of Legends. This is our midweek episode before the second week of the NACL Open qualifier. Those will be happening in just 2 days, and we're going to see even more teams eliminated, and our first 2 teams qualify into the Challengers League. Also some other drama, but we'll probably focus more on that next week. My name is Grapes, joined alongside Hawk. Hawk, how are you doing today?
Guys, we're going to be honest. It's not been a great day in general, but especially in North American Tier 2, Tier 3. We've gotten some news on the Tier 2 side that kind of sucks. Not going to lie, but like you said, we'll mostly talk about that in our headlines next week, but we'll probably at least touch on the news at like the top of the show today. Before we do all that, though, everyone make sure to follow us on all of our socials at Salty Runback NA. Subscribe to our Patreon. We've been killing it over there. It's been amazing. We have a new episode of Semi-Pro POV coming out, I believe, by the time this episode goes live. Also still trying to get the spices right together, scheduling conflicts. Apparently, when you're trying to get like 4 people together at the same time, are a little tricky. But we're working on it. And regardless of all of that, also make sure you subscribe to the channel, like the video. Join the Discord. It's in our link tree now. Shout out Chad.
We've been doing really good on these episodes lately, so I'm glad that this OQ content is very great for you guys, the audience. And speaking of the audience, that is who we're going to be focusing on here today with our voicemail, call-in, whatever you want to say it, episode. We want to hear from y'all, so we put out a tweet a couple of days ago asking for your hottest take about this open qualifier, about the space in general, about the format, about anything, about which teams you want to see make it in, which teams you think are going to get eliminated. And we're going to listen to all of that and react to see just how crazy those takes may be.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so excited for this. I've been wanting to do something like this for a little bit, and finally we had like the perfect window, I think, to do it. Shout out to everyone that did submit a take. I think we've got like 7 of them lined up for today. A couple of them overlapped, so we'll shout out people that might have had similar takes here or there. Grapes, before we get into all that, I feel like we need to address the elephant in the room, though, which is that earlier today, Wednesday, March 5th, news broke that Polestar is out of money. They are literally pulling a nightmare, which we had a whole conversation about like 2 or 3 weeks ago. We can link the video for that in the description. And the problem is the situation is even worse because now the season has started, and this team is in the NACL and owns an NACL spot. And the question that I have is just how the fuck did we let this happen?
This is now the 3rd time where this happened. Remember, the reason that Polestar bought the spot at all is because Cincinnati Fear were basically forced by their parent company to do the exact same thing because they did not have the financials. Another situation where this is happening, and it's just very unfortunate. It's even more unfortunate, of course, because of the fact that this is happening basically after OQs have already started. Apparently, the information was given to the ownership the day of the OQ submission deadline, and for whatever reason, one way or the other, the players are all still there and not on an OQ team. And so that leaves a lot of questions as to what Polestar can do. Theoretically, they can make the players play without pay, or make some players play without pay. Obviously, that would be a very unideal situation. I feel like the best thing to do right now is to just kind of wait for more information, see if any further developments happen. There could be a buyer, there could be more funding coming in, but I think overall just really sucks that this is once again a situation that is happening in our league.
Yeah, we've heard a lot of conflicting reports about also like the level of involvement of the LCSPA right now. Riot, Pulse at the very least has said that they're going to pay everybody for their time so far, but I mean, man, it's not a good look. They literally bought the spot, like publicly bought the spot less than a month ago, and now it's just already cooked. It's a really, really bad look, and I totally understand that things are out of ownership's control sometimes, and like shit happens, but I just don't get how we got here so quickly. What had to go catastrophically wrong behind the scenes, and if it went so wrong so fast, I feel like that means that certain things were not forthcoming, and that rubs me the wrong way, absolutely. My heart absolutely goes out to the players because, I mean, as we had a lengthy discussion about, I think this Polestar roster is one of the more talented in the ecosystem. I'm really curious to see how involved Riot gets with this because I think this is... I actually have been very surprised at how many people have been like, well, this sucks. No, like, this is a really catastrophic situation because there are potentially a bunch of people out of a job that they thought were going to have lined up. They might, even worse than that, than not getting the money, honestly, which I know is, like, hard to say in this ecosystem, but even worse than not getting the money, might not even be able to play at all. Like, I think this is, like, a huge deal, and anyone hand-waving this away, we're going to see what happens, because I think Riot needs to get involved with this and sort this shit out, because this is... it's unacceptable.
Let's take the weekend to to take a breath, reset, and then once we know even more information, we'll be able to dive back into things, see what's going on. We'll do a deep dive in next week's headline episode.
Yeah, we'll talk much more about this.
Happen. But it is an important thing to discuss right now.
Yeah.
And we don't want to make any false accusations or point any fingers when there's still a very developing story, but we wish the best for the players and the staff and hope that they are able to find the opportunities that they want, throughout this year and beyond. But with that being said, on that really high note, let's jump into some takes. Let's lighten the mood a little bit.
Fun. Yeah.
Let's talk about this open qualifier because I think that is what the people here also want to see.
Yeah, we just had a crazy weekend of games as we talked at length about on our previous headlines episode. Check that one out if you've not seen it. But and we've got some takes now. Like Grapes already primed, Hotline League style, we have 7 takes lined up. We're gonna react to them. We're gonna tell you why you're wrong, or maybe why you're right. Grapes, we could literally play a game of do we take them with a grain of salt, yes or no? We could do the whole show tagline right here. I don't know. Do we just want to dive straight in? How do we want to do this?
Yeah, let's jump into it. I mean, we have a bunch of them. You could just pick one to roll things off with.
All right, I'll be the MC right here. So I got the first one pulled up. Shout out to Slayer. Sent this one in to us earlier today with the caption, "You'll love this." So let's see how much we love this. All right. Let's hear it.
You're my goat for real, man. You're my goat. Oh, sorry guys. Sorry, I was reminiscing on my
That's
Super Bowl
crazy
MVP.
glaze, bro.
Jalen
Crazy
Hurts.
glaze.
Go Eagles, by the way. Anyways, all jokes aside, I heard we were throwing out some NACL qualifier hot takes for the Salty Runback. So, I had to get in on that action. And my focus is going to be on the Slated Six team. Thin Uncle Phil is the coach. Former Ducky Getters topside. Utter is a standout mid laner. And then the best named bottom lane duo in the entire qualifiers. That's not my hot take, by the way. HubTub. It's just the coolest name. The hot take is, I think Slated Six will not only have one chance, but will have 2 shots at qualifying for the NACL during this qualifier tournament. Not once, but 2 chances. How do you like that for a hot take?
That's
the HubTub bot lane.
That's a hot take.
So let's break this down via the
yeah.
bracket, and let's talk about what this could potentially mean here. Slayer says that he thinks that that Slated Six would get 2 chances, 2 best of 5s to qualify into the NACL. So their first matchup is against the Ducky Getters. That'll be happening the first round on Saturday. And if they can win that one, which I think we can all agree it's going to be a very close game, they'll play the winner of Friendly Fellas versus YBN1, 2 rosters that feature a ton of former NACL, even LCS talent. And that would take them to that first best of 5 where they would likely play either near airport or respawn. Then, if they lose that game, which Slayer is assuming, that would send them down into the lower bracket where they would then be matched up into 1 best of 3 against a whole quadrant of teams that include Fantastic Five, Fisher, Grandview, but also a bunch of other teams kind of in that side of the bracket.
Potentially like Galaxy Gaming, Apex Mission Impossible. Those are all the teams that would kind of fall to this side of the bracket. Basically, the bracket flips, right? So they'd have to play the teams that are currently on the bottom side of the bracket that are going to drop down.
Now, I think where this take has a little bit of reality is that their potential final round opponent, if they're able to win that next best of 3 against the entire survival of that other top half of the bracket, would likely be the Citadel for that best of 5. So that means that aside from Near Airport and Citadel, Slayer thinks that Slated Six can beat anybody here in this OQ.
Yeah, that's basically the take. I'm going to be honest. I think this is definitely a spicy take. I think it's a pretty hot take. I I don't know how off base it is. Is that crazy? Like, really, you just gotta
possible.
be. It's absolutely possible. Like, at the end of the day, basically, I think the main hot take here is that they are going to beat winner of Friendly Fellas YBN1, which I think it is fair to say that they are not favored in either of those matches. But I don't think it's like they're not favored at the point where like I think they're going to lose badly or some shit. You know what I mean? Like I just think it's more of like a 60-40 situation. And then I mean, if it's like them against Apex or Galaxy, I think very similarly, Slated Six might have the sauce to make it to that lower bracket final. And I think it's a big help that they're dodging Citadel up until that match. I don't know, man. I think Slayer's like a little bit based for this one.
It's certainly within the realm of possibility. I will absolutely give him that. And I think a big reason because of it is, as we mentioned a little bit on the last episode, the newer players that are coming into this team, right? He mentioned Utter or Adam, who had a great game 3 on the Oriana, I believe, game 2, I should say, against third party. And I think the biggest one is, as he said, the Hub Tub bot lane, as they are playing out of this world throughout the first couple of rounds.
Yeah.
Hub currently has a 9.2 KDA with a 4-1 record, which means including a loss that they also had. 80% kill participation, 9 kills per game, 129, goal difference at 15. Like, this guy is performing absolutely incredible after we've only seen him really in 1 OQ. And that's not even to mention Boruto/Tub, whatever you want to call him, at the support position, who also has just been a really, really big piece for them.
I agree. I'm going to be honest. I think the Slated team is really good. I watched their tape. I've watched a lot more tape since the last time we saw each other. I've written my whole scouting report for this team. I think Slated Six is really good. I do think they have a couple of problems, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with having a couple of problems, but Bio is currently on form. Like, I think everybody on this team is on form. The biggest question for me is just going to be, I think, how do they stack up individually against, other top teams, right? Like, teams Friendly Fellas, the Citadel, near airport, right? Like, that's their biggest question that I think stands between them and promotion. I think they are good enough to beat all of the teams that we had outside of that like top 4 power ranking coming into the tournament of near airport, Respawn, Tempest, and near airport,
Citadel.
The Citadel. Thank you. I think outside of those top 4 teams, I'm not sure about those 4. They can beat anybody else, and for Slayer's take to come true, that actually does not involve beating any of those teams. So I think it's interesting.
I think, as you said, the biggest test is going to be that next round against either the Friendly Fellas or YBN1. Friendly Fellas obviously taking down Citadel, who we'll talk more about those teams a little bit later, spoiler alert. And then YBN1, we haven't really seen, I personally have not seen much tape of them. They beat the Flippers 2-1, which means that Flippers did take a game off of, actually no, that was an FF situation, so they actually swept through that one as well. I think that YBN team, if they get through, could be a little bit scary for them. But I think after that, they could get into that best of 5. And then, I surely think that they can compete with the likes of Galaxy Gaming, Dorado, or Apex if they're on that other side of the bracket. So I would agree with you there, Slayer. I think that if they can get through day 3, then they will have their chance at 2 best of 5s.
But let's remember, Slayer said this with a lot of confidence. So Grapes, on the scale of like sushi to beef Wellington, how much did Slayer cook with this take? I think that's how we got to rate these takes here today.
I'd say Slayer's a nice medium burger. Little smash burger. Get some cheese, get some pickles. It's a solid meal. It's a classic.
He threw it on the grill, he cooked it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's tasty,
it's great.
The masses like the take.
Yeah, but it's not incredibly cooked. It's not it's just a classic good old fashioned burger.
All right, I think I like that. Yeah, I think that's a good take. That's a good one to start us off. It's a hot take, but nothing too crazy. Thank you very much to Slayer for sending that one in. Grapes, shall we keep it moving?
Let's keep it moving.
All right. This next one coming from Mr. Quax sent us this one yesterday with the caption, Quack.
Sup, Salty Runback crew, it's Quax here in a hoodie right before I'm about to take a nap, so forgive my energy levels if they're a little bit low. So my take is that as more teams drop from the NACL due to sustainability issues, mostly with money, orgs that have the ability to partner and or buy slots will become a lot more prevalent going forward. OQs will be one way that future NACL orgs can kind of showcase things, all while waiting for a potential promotion within the next, 6 months to a year. We saw this last year with Polestar taking over Fear's spot, not because they won, but because they had the money to and had good results over spring and summer, sort of that almost team. So this kind of is all to say that while I think promoting into the NACL will be important, buying and merging will be just as prevalent going forward, simply because the sustainability of Tier 2 is really not there, right? It's a really unsustainable landscape at the current moment and with its current model. So I do think that open qualifiers will function as more of as just as much of a promotion ground as a look at the top teams or look at the top organizations, and you could potentially find these guys coming up in the near future. So yeah, that's my take. Whether or not this increases or decreases the value of open qualifiers, though, is a discussion on its own that is not a part of this, so I won't talk about that. So yeah, that's my take.
Okay. Wow, that is an insanely
Just so everyone knows,
timely.
That came out. He posted that 24 hours
Yesterday.
before
Yeah.
the announcement of Polestar. So
What the fuck just happened? Okay. There was a lot to unpack there. So let's maybe break this one down piece by piece. So it seemed to me like Quax is basically saying that promoting... Wait, I'm trying to figure out what the actual take was, actually.
His take is promoting is not as important as just being able to buy a slot. So if you're an org, promoting is cool, but you could just buy the next spot available to the next seller and just get into the league that way, which we thought we saw with Polestar, although maybe that has proven to be incorrect. But I honestly don't disagree with him too much here on this one.
Interesting, because I think I really disagree with him. So say your thoughts first.
Here's the thing. I know we're going to maybe talk about this Polestar situation a little bit later, but I feel like one of the main solutions to this is that one of the organizations that has some money that doesn't make it into the OQ could maybe buy out the Pulse slot, give those players a little bit of opportunity. Maybe they merge with another company who can provide them with a little bit of extra revenue and have them be a part of the league. I feel like that is the biggest thing that we have seen recently. Every single split, we've seen a team not make it through the promotion tournament that ends up being in the NACL the following split, whether it be Pulse, AoE, or Winthrop, etc., or Supernova.
So we're not going to see Pulse in the NACL?
You don't think so?
Actually, I don't know. I'm just being a shitter. Sorry, I felt like making a joke and then I immediately yawned.
But regardless, like that is the situation where, in my opinion, or I was hoping at least, that an organization like a Nightmare or Citadel maybe was just like hovering around, waiting to scoop up a group of 5 friends in a dream to maybe allow them to play. Because remember, the new rules say you need to be an LLC, a registered LLC, to compete. And so if that happens, I feel like there are worlds and are situations for different companies to come in and buy these spots.
See, I think I disagree with the take, though, for kind of exactly what you're saying. Why would I, as an organization, buy Polestar's slot and then just become Polestar, as opposed to just waiting for a team to promote and then buying the team?
I think that's also like part of what he's saying. He's saying I think he's saying for org specifically, you don't necessarily have to send a team through the open qualifiers, pay them the money to play the OQ. You can just either buy a slot outright from somebody who's selling their NACL slot.
I guess this gets into maybe semantics, but I interpret as buying a slot as different than buying a roster. I think those are two very different things. Like,
I think that
me coming in and sponsoring an OQ team after they've promoted is way different to me than saying I'm going to buy Polestar slot in the NACL. Those are complete, like, and do you get what I'm saying? Like,
I'm curious to see what Quax's interpretation of this is, because I could see you going with that, but I feel like the reason he made this take is to explain the fact that he believes that in the long run, orgs won't necessarily want to buy like an OQ team, or they won't want to pay for an OQ team because it's too risky. You could not win the promotion tournament, you could fall out, you could drop out, and then that's all that money spent without getting that chance to be in the league. where you could get a little bit of a leg up and a head start by buying your way in, whether it's through a Tony Top situation where 5 friends come in and you can maybe pick them up, or a team's looking to sell, you pick up their roster, you move on from there. I feel like that is generally the point that he was trying to get across.
I agree. I think I just think of those two scenarios as being very distinct from one another, so I want to kind of talk about them separately. Here, and I'll come in with a take here too. I think I would rather still send a team through the OQs and then just pay them like cheaper that split or something than buy Polestar's slot. Because again, he specifically used actually Polestar as an example, which I know now Polestar's the team out, but he used what Polestar did buying Fear as the example, right?
Yeah.
I would much rather send a team as a business owner through the OQs, I think, than try to buy an NACL spot right now. Because I think the monetary value of an NACL spot is $. So why would I spend dollars to get that?
The valuation could change, and also like maybe there's a world where you buy it for cheaper, and also you get the guaranteed spot versus a team like Native, for instance, or one of Respawn, Citadel, or Tempest or Galaxy is going to have spent this money and end up without a spot anyway because they don't make it into the OQ. And it's going to be even harder to do in the coming splits because this is the only OQ where this specific situation is happening where the top 3 automatically qualify. Next time around, it'll probably be the top 2, maybe the top 3 or 4 make it into the promotion tournament where they have to play against the lower seeded NACL teams.
I agree with you there, but I'm just thinking, I think for everybody that's like not the Citadel, I don't. How much do they actually care if they don't make tier 2 though?
I think he's saying for orgs specifically. Like, I guess it depends on what you mean by like an organization versus like, for example, like if Luminosity didn't get the NACL spot, I think Quax's take is that they wouldn't run through the OQs this year. If it happened, they wouldn't run through the OQs next split. They would just pick up a roster and buy a spot, which they basically did, and that kind of proves his point.
Right. I get what you're saying. I still think it's conflating two completely different things.
Fair enough.
I don't know, but again, my take is I think any organization that wants to buy an NACL spot is fucking stupid. If you want to invest in NA League, you should just get a tier 3 team either by buying them after they promote, or better yet, just starting like a grassroots organization and running through things that way instead of trying to do like the fucking super team bullshit, man. Like, because I agree with you. I think that's like not a good idea either. But I think the thing I would like to do the absolute least is buy an NACL spot because I do not think that is worth real dollars. And teams that have paid real dollars for those spots have boomed. And I guess maybe that's my counterpoint to Quax's take. Are you following me on that one?
Yeah, I mean, if the NACL spot is more expensive, like and it's going to cost a lot more money, it's like a cost risk evaluation. You can guarantee yourself a spot in the league by paying this fee, or you could pay a little bit less to send them through the OQs and give yourself a chance. And so that's the gamble there.
This is really going to get into the weeds. I guess I'm just thinking from an organizational perspective. If you're thinking of NA tier 3 or tier 2 or any sort of NA League esports as an investment, you already should leave because it's not worth it. So that's why I would rather just see teams like support players and like be a little bit more grassroots about it instead of trying to be like because again, I also think what Luminosity is doing is like a little stupid because even though it's great, like they're coming in, they're going to play in the NACL and they're going to be good. And they are, as of right now, economically solvent. If they don't make the LTA, like, are they just going to bow out too, right? Like, you know what I mean? And so I think these orgs, like, might have an ROI that is unattainable.
So how cooked are you saying this one is? Because we got 5 more after this.
I know. I don't know, man. I think this is like, I don't even know how to rate this take. It's fucking insane that he had this take the day before Polestar boomed, by the way. Like, this is so funny. Because I think we're literally about to see this play out in real time, and I think that's what makes this take hard for me to rate. Is like, I think I have my opinions on it, but that doesn't make it necessarily a bad take.
I say I mostly agree with him. I give him like similar to the burger, maybe even more than the burger. I don't know. I think I understand his argument where he's coming from, and I think it's just the semantics and stuff that we're disagreeing over right now.
It might be, yeah.
All right. Well, let's move on to our next one. Who do we got next, Hawk?
All right, this one is from Forset. No caption for this one. You told me he sent us 2, but I think I was supposed to just play the first one, right?
Yep.
Okay, let's listen in.
I'm doing this with my phone since apparently my PC didn't want to work. But my take is that Citadel is going to lose in the bottom bracket to Flippers. And not only are Flippers going to make a deep run, they are going to contend in the finals to promote to the NACL. I think their team is incredibly good and underrated. And I think overall they have positions in every single lane to carry the game.
That's
a spicy one.
That's a blazing hot take. Oh my. So to recap for everyone, the take is that we are going to see Flippers in the lower bracket final. That is the take. Potentially against Slated Six if Slayer is to be believed. And obviously the take started with the fact that Flippers opens their weekend against the Citadel in the lower bracket on Saturday at 1 p.m. Pacific.
Yeah, so do we want to talk about the Flippers part of this first, the Citadel part of this first? Because there are different angles we can attack it with.
I think the main angle is the Flippers part, right? Like,
okay,
sure, Citadel losing to Flippers is definitely part of this, but to me, the main take is that Forset is a Flippers believer.
So let's track the potential path here for Flippers. They're going to have to start by beating the Citadel, as you already mentioned, who are going to be like a huge favorite. Then they play the loser of Don't Ban Viego and Apex. That will likely be Don't Ban Viego. That's a very winnable game for them. They then either get third party or Dorado Gaming, who is another pretty solid team. And then after that, they move on to the loser of C57, which would be one of like Wang's or UCI most likely. Or no, sorry, Respawn. It would be Respawn. So they would beat Respawn after that. And then they have to play one more, and then they would be in, I think, that qualification match, or maybe even another one. There's a lot of games left that this team has to play. But let's start with that road first.
Yeah.
First, it's the Don't Ban Viego into Dorado into Respawn that they would likely have to go through.
Dude, I'm sorry, this take is so fucking cooked. Like, overcooked to the max. I think I'm like willing to be like, Flippers is a pretty good team. Like, they are. They got some good players. They're very high elo. Shout out to them for all grinding solo queue really well. Dog, this team got 2-0'd by YBN1. This team's fucking... They're not going to go that far. I'm sorry. I just do not believe that. I think they are going to lose to the Citadel 2-0. If Citadel is like remotely locked in, the series is going to be a huge stomp. And I don't think that really reflects poorly on Flippers. They got some shooters. Like, I'm a Lancelot Link stan through and through. However, it's not going to happen. I'm sorry. It's not.
I think the question is, how much it's first, how much do you believe in the Flippers? And then also it's how much do you not believe in the Citadel as well? I mean, if you just look at it from a lane by lane perspective, Lancelot Link going up against Philip. I feel like that's pretty Philip favored. Win against Armeo. It's Aj against Bradley. It's PVS. Going up against Trevor. It's looking pretty difficult. However, the Elo's there. They did win their first round, but we haven't really seen them. In the lower bracket, they've seemingly. They played Prosperity Esports and won that matchup rather easily. So, hey, if they make Citadel sweat a little bit and end up, getting through there, I think the next 2 rounds are definitely doable for them. But it's then after that they have to play against Respawn. I think the bracket is in this bottom half gets pretty tough, especially because you get the side of the bracket who Hawk, I think we all agree is the
harder.
Tougher side of the bracket of winners.
I think the bigger issue that I have with this take is like, even if Flippers beats the Citadel, which is already, I think, a very hot take. Like, again, Flippers has some good players, but no offense, none of these guys are even close to NACL caliber, okay? Like, they're just not. Unless they have leveled up unbelievably since the last time I saw them play. I will say I've not watched any Flippers tape because I don't expect to cover them. I would love to be proven wrong. Like, fucking shut me up. Let's go. But, yeah, I have not watched their tape unless they have insane macro. They are like so linked up as a team. I am like willing to be like, okay, maybe Citadel chokes the shit out of this. They lose and Flippers moves on. they still have to beat Respawn. They still have to beat UCI. They still have to beat all these guys. Like I'm sorry, it's just not going to happen. Yeah, I don't think I have much else to say. I think this take is overcooked. However, I do respect the confidence, and that's the kind of shit I like to hear. That's why we did this. So thank you, Forset.
Quickly, this is also our Citadel will be eliminated take. So let's talk about that for a little bit here. How do you think they're going to respond after this last week? We got a comment from Maddie in our YouTube comment section saying that they didn't actually get the chance to scrim very much going into this because the team was formed rather last minute. Do you think that is just an excuse, or do you think that is actually has some truth behind it, which could result in them like really leveling up going into this weekend?
I think it's both. I think it's definitely an excuse, but like because something's an excuse doesn't mean it's invalid. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's my thoughts. I don't think my needle has moved too much on the Citadel since the last time we talked about them, Grapes. Like, yeah, I still think this team should be considered the lower bracket favorite, but they've played like shit. So, let's get it together. Let's go, boys. Let's go win some league. Like that's really all I have to say there. Like, because I'm saying they look like shit. People memed on me in the comments for that one. But like that's
compared
not me
to
saying
what we were expecting of them. Absolutely, they did
right.
not look
And
anywhere
again,
near
and I think
where
it's
we were hoping
important
them to be.
nuance too. That's not me saying they will continue to look like shit. They just did look like shit. But yeah, like if they start winning games, they could still win the lower bracket. So that's kind of where I'm at.
So long story short, we disagree with this take in general. I think we think that both Citadel is going to do pretty well, and we don't know if Flippers can necessarily step up to the plate against some of the top level teams.
Yeah, I think to give some sauce, Citadel is going to 2-0 Flippers. I'm sorry. I would love to be proven wrong. I can't wait to be memed on for this.
I can't wait for Flippers to take a game. Salt Lake to go 12-0 and then tag you with this clip. I can't wait.
Let's see it.
All right, let's move on to our next take.
All right. This one's from Faris. He said, "Okay, hot take number 2." We also got
what is going on, Salty Runback? It's Faris. My hot take. Wearing the GHG merch. Shout out GHG of old OQs. And speaking of old OQs, my hot take is that this 64-team double elimination bracket is actually better than the brackets we've had of old, where it's a Swiss stage, a GSL stage, and a knockout stage. The tournament's shorter, so people who might have shorter attention spans, who might be falling out of it if the tournament goes on later and later, might stay interested in it if it's quicker. There's no ranked restriction, so more eyes that may not have been on this scene are going to be onto it because they're actually playing. There's a couple amateur teams in there who may have not have known about the OQs otherwise if that hadn't have been a thing. And it's also straight up easier to understand. There's no point system. There's no extra promotion tournament after the qualifier. Who has more points, this and that. It's just win or you lose. It's kind of like League's own March Madness, just kind of with a double elimination bracket. So that's my hot take. 64-team double elimination bracket is a better format than what we had before.
All right. I was waiting for a format take.
We got to use that March Madness terminology more because it absolutely is madness right now in March.
It is madness. Yeah.
I personally, I agree with and disagree with him, and here's why. I do think that this has been the most fun I've had watching Tier 3 in years. I think at this point, I think 2022 was a lot of fun, but and even though last split and last year was very good, I feel like there were a lot of times, especially over the course of like a season, a 10-week long regular season, basically, it just feels like sometimes it drags on for a little bit. You know what I mean? Casting that lower bracket GSL match during the second qualifier sometimes is a bit of a drag. It never feels like that here with this format because every single matchup is super important. And as you said, like there's elimination games and there's a ton of stuff happening at the same time. It's like the excitement and the adrenaline rush that we get from watching the Swiss stage like over the course of 3 weeks, which is great. Second, most impressions that we've probably ever gotten about this NACL qualifier. It definitely helps that double lift's been involved, but I feel like a lot more people and personalities have been following because of it and because of its extended nature. The thing I want to argue against it is that this is actually not going to be the OQ format for the rest of the year. There's going to be a different, changed up thing. It'll probably be similar. It'll probably be smaller. and there also will be that extra step of a promotion tournament at the end of it. So this is like a once in a lifetime, once in a scenario situation where we'll get like a watered down version of it, I think, later. And I think that might be an even more interesting discussion, Hawk, is do we think that format would be more interesting than the old?
Yeah, I think your thoughts generally align with mine. I think this is an interesting take from Faris, because I think it's totally fair to say that the 32 team format had problems. I definitely agree it could drag on a little bit. But I do think I think the 64 team bracket is only good because of the purpose it is currently serving. I would not like this for this to be like the tier 3 circuit all the time, because at the end of the day, a lot of teams are barely getting to play any games, right? But I love this like crazy fucking, it's Armageddon tournament, bum rush for 3 spots. I do think one of the benefits of a double elimination tournament is that it gets the top teams playing each other faster. Like, we're going into the second weekend and we've already got shit like Near Airport and Respawn kind of on our docket, right? So I think for that reason, like, that's a good thing. We're seeing that with CLOL as well. But I think there needs to be some kind of balance to actually let people get games in like a tier 3 circuit. Maybe it depends on like what you think tier 3's for. Is it just to promote to the NACL, or is it to actually like have an ecosystem kind of going alongside it? Yeah,
Well,
I'll let us unpack that at least to start, because I think the 64 team bracket is funny for this one-off event, but I don't want to say it's better than the old formats.
think about it though. How many more games are the 17 through 32 teams getting this year versus last year?
Sure.
Last year they were getting 5 best of ones in each tournament. Maybe you get 10 best of ones. Or if you didn't qualify into the top 32, you just didn't get any games and you're out. Under this format right now, if you're a team seeded 17 through 32, you likely get 3, 4, maybe even 5 best of 3s. That include a couple of losses, a couple of wins. That actually probably adds up to more games played even in this shorter time frame than over the course of an entire NACL season. And then once you get to the top, obviously those games get even more. We're going to see the Citadel probably play through 17, 18, 19, 20 games in just a couple of weeks because of the lower bracket run that they're going to have to go to.
Yeah.
So
no,
I
agree. And also, oh, sorry.
I think we're actually kind of, in terms of the number of games, we're actually kind of similar. I think where your argument has a point is that a format like this gives us less chance to build storylines and to build narratives about like a teams in a circuit, right? This is kind of
it's fun because it is chaos.
Yeah,
but
we don't get the chance to really dive into each team specifically. It's a lot of let's go over here, then let's go over here, then let's go over here, which is fun. But also, if we're really trying to build up like specific player storylines, sometimes that could be a bit of a detriment.
Which, honestly, I will say maybe an argument for something like this to just exist alongside like Aegis, and then Aegis becomes like the tier 3 circuit. Honestly, like maybe that's a conversation to have. But
like an unofficial tier 3 circuit.
Yeah, exactly. Like this is how you promote to the NACL, but it's just a couple of like one-off tournaments. And then if you want to like play high-level League of Legends in tier 3, you just go and play with Aegis or some shit. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's partly what was happening already. But I think I understand what you're saying.
Like but
a
it
full
becomes
regular
more,
season. Because there's more space between OQs.
Right.
You'll have more time for the specific tournament.
Exactly. Something I do want to really agree with Faris on is I do like that championship points are dead, at least for this tournament. I definitely took some issue, I think, with the championship point system. Like, I thought it was fine, but I do like how your performance in this event is directly related to like every team controls their own destiny. You know what I mean? And obviously that was like true under the championship point format as well. But like at the end of the day, just win the big fucking bracket. And I kind of like that. So I think that's a good take from Faris there.
Championship points were also like refined and I think improved on over the years. Like when it first was introduced, I think it was a lot worse and like a lot less balanced, I think. But yeah, I think specifically like this format is awesome, is why like our channel's doing really good selfishly, but also why like a lot of attention is going around tier 3 is because it's a really fun, interesting format to cover. But in terms of like sustainability for the future, I'm curious to see what the audience reaction is next split when there potentially is a similar 32-team elimination bracket with then the top 2 teams potentially playing into the promotion tournament. And I feel like that could be another fun crossroads where we can take a step back and reevaluate this. Because remember in the announcement from Riot that came out, I think back in November, they said that they wanted to improve the amount of availability and openness of the open qualifier where, quote, like any of your friends can go and sign up. And I feel like something like this is definitely what they were leaning towards when they had that kind of messaging back in the offseason.
I do like that. I do think it was funny that Faris is like, I think it's a good thing that there's no ranked requirement. I'm like, yeah. I don't know.
It created like the most viral moment of the OQ so far, which was Doublelift playing against silver players.
Yeah.
And also against the plat players beating the challenger team.
Yeah, I know. It's just funny. Okay, we gotta keep things moving. We're already 40 minutes in. We're only halfway through our takes. Grapes, how much did Faris cook here? I'm giving it like I don't know. I feel like this is like instant ramen for me.
I'd say this is a solid like Thanksgiving mashed potatoes. It's not like fully complete. It's not fully fleshed out, but in isolation, it's pretty good. You know, you need some other context. You need some turkey. You need some green beans. You need some gravy. But on its own, it also works.
Interesting. Okay. You know what? I'm gonna pivot. I'm gonna go to cranberry sauce instead. Continuing on your Thanksgiving
metaphor.
Disrespectful. Continuing on your Thanksgiving metaphor, just because I don't really love cranberry sauce that much, but I acknowledge the important place it has at the Thanksgiving table. You know what I mean?
Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right, we got 3 takes left. Who do we want to tackle next?
All right, let's hit up Shibby.
My NACL OQ take, by the way, is it's a little bit, but Apex Mission Impossible will obviously win their match against Don't Ban Viego, but the spicier take is that they are going to upset Galaxy Gaming when they face them in the next bracket or the next match, because Galaxy Gaming is going against Dorado Gaming, unless Dorado Gaming obviously upset Galaxy, which would be kind of crazy. But Apex Mission Impossible will upset Galaxy Gaming in that next match, assuming both high-seeded teams win their matches, because it is the year of Lojaz, baby. That's why I've been a fan of Lojaz since the beginning of this year. It's the year of Lojaz. You better watch out. He's taking over.
I think my favorite part of that take is when Shibby just goes, when Apex obviously beats Don't Ban Viego.
Right, because that wouldn't be a very hot take, right?
Yeah.
Spicier than that.
What do you think, Grapes?
I love this. Shibby's been hyping up Lojaz for the past like 6 months, like in behind the scenes. Like when we've been talking to him on and off, like this guy loves the jungler for Apex Mission Impossible. And hey, he proved himself to be correct, as you are going to see if you subscribe to our Patreon. Lojaz both stole away a Rift Herald and a Soul Dragon from Baco against Red Note, which eventually ended up clinching them the series. Like, this guy was so clutch on the smites. He worked really well with the rest of his team. And I think the bigger thing is that Apex just really worked well together. It seems like Five Mini has really slotted in nicely, and it's 4 players who have that existing synergy, and they really like to play together as 5. And I think their team fighting style of, not really caring too much about lane, scaling into those team fights, I think that's actually a pretty good matchup against Galaxy, who also likes to do the same. And I think you can make the argument that maybe Apex really does have what it takes.
Yeah, I think this one's really interesting because, I mean, we had Galaxy sort of at that like really solid 5th seed with Apex still in the conversation as far as like contenders are concerned. I don't think we have Apex that far behind Galaxy in the first place. I'm trying to figure out like how much stock I put in this take though, because I do still think like, I think I give Galaxy still like 65% odds to win this match. I don't know if that's really high though.
What percent? Sorry.
65.
I'd say it's like, I'd say it gives Galaxy a slight edge. However, I really like the way that Apex have been playing. They're 4-0 in their matchups already, including of course that 2-0 over Red Note. I feel like that gives them a bit of the edge right there. Galaxy Gaming hasn't had too difficult of opponents just yet, but all their games have been rather quick and rather efficient. And so there's really not much to go off of right there just yet.
Yeah, I mean, let's dive into the Shibby take. Year of Lojaz. I think City Witty is probably going to be one of the biggest carries on this Galaxy Gaming team. This would be a great opportunity.
Their playstyle is so different, though.
Oh, it is. It absolutely is. But this would still be a great opportunity for Lojaz against a great jungler in City to prove he's got what he's got. Man, I don't know. This is a really hard one to rate because Galaxy on paper is definitely favored to me. I think it's like a fun take, though. I mean, at the end of the day, it's just like, hey, I think this team's going to beat this team. I think should be cooked with this one.
I say this is a very, very well cooked.
I think it's like a reasonable hot take. You know what I mean?
Yeah, this is just a nicely roasted chicken breast. It's solid. It's a hot take. It's not too hot. It would have
been hotter if he said they were going to be Tempest.
Yeah, or like near airport or something like that on the other side of the bracket, right? But I think Galaxy Gaming is going to be a big test for them. I will give Galaxy maybe the slight edge just based off of their player names. I think Inori B has also looked like statistically he's playing really, really well. But from the tape I've seen of Apex, I'm actually very impressed by them. And I think that they could be dangerous, especially in this half of the bracket.
Again, to give Shibby's take some water, if you think that Decoy is around the same caliber as Cozy, which I don't think is like too off base, and then you have City against Lojaz, Year of Lojaz against City, and then Phi Mini, if he can show up against Ariandel, like I think the top side of Apex actually has a good amount of play into Galaxy here. I do think I favor Galaxy's bottom lane, but like if you think that the top side can actually contend against Galaxy Gaming, I really think this take like definitely holds water. So yeah, I think it's a good one. I don't know. This one is it's a pork chop, you know? It's a staple of the table.
It's a solid meal.
Yeah.
Meal. He cooked decently well.
Yeah. All right. We got one from Aloxeo. Let's take a listen.
Hey everyone, on the Salty Runback, it is Aloxeo, assistant coach of Ole Miss. And my hot take for this OQ is that Zero Animosity is going to make a run in the lower bracket. They're going to take down Titan first and foremost, and then even hotter than that, the loser of C49 in the bracket, they will probably be playing against UCI, and in that case, they're going to take them down as well. Myself and everyone else in the OQ scene has been waiting for this Kosa roster to make a run, and especially seeing Retro Zing in those last games performing the best that I've ever seen. I think if there's any OQ for this Kosa core, and now known as Zero Animosity, to finally make a run, it is this one. So I'm excited to see what they put together. I've also scrimmed against them many times in the past when I was on NLE, and they pull out some interesting strategies. And I think that hopefully if they stick to what they're good at and also pull out some interesting things, they're going to make an upset and they're going to make a run.
Oh.
This is a crazy take. I mean, we're going to talk about a team we really haven't talked about too much here.
Yeah.
So Hawk, you have watched this team play
Dude.
on the main broadcast. What do you think of them?
I think this is a great take. I shout out Aloxeo. I've been saying on our last episode, I think Zero Animosity, they have a really clear way they want to play the game. I put RetroZing during the main broadcast as kind of the player that I'm looking at to have like a breakout tournament. I think them beating Titan, like I actually think I might favor Zero Animosity in this matchup. And fuck it, dude, we got everything here. We got like a little bit of like UCI doubter mentality, which like we're always here for on the Salty Runback. Like
Don't say that.
Nah, it's true. It's true. Like I love my boys at UCI. Like, but they're like, I mean, Sean said it best. They're like the KT of CLOL, dude. Like, as soon as you believe in them, they suck. So like, I think this is a really great take. I love this one.
No, I didn't get to watch too much of the mainstream because I was working / starting the co-stream. But overall, like, what did you like the most about the Zero Animosity team? Because they did win that first series, obviously, and then fell against Tempest, which I think many people could maybe predict. And
happens.
Took a 2-1 over Starry Sky, which was like the Ottawa team.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me with this team is they have a really, really clear idea of how they want to play the game. They play hard for their true rookie AD carry in the bottom lane, and they just play team fights. And it's nothing fancy. Like, they don't do anything that blows my mind, but I think they just have a solid core of players that know how they want to play the game, and that actually takes you really far. in tier 3 when things can get messy. I also already got to see them stand up to adversity as well in their first game against Prosperity that they absolutely should have lost. And so, yeah, I just think, like, I think this team's got their heads in the right spot. Aloxeo kind of mentioned, like, they pull out some interesting strategies and stuff. I've not really seen that yet, so that actually gives me some, like, hope for them moving forward. But no, I just think they got good players. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of a non-answer, I guess, but...
And call me crazy, Hawk, as we get into the end of this take. But I think that, if anything, a team that could struggle against some unique things thrown their way could be UCI if they end up losing to Near Airport and being sent down to the lower bracket. Because I feel like that team likes to play very standard. They have like a very specific way they like to play the game. If they're throwing a wild card, maybe things actually do become difficult for them. Although I will say I do like the way that they've been playing. I think they've been like on the upturn lately, this certain UCI squad.
Yeah, I still think I favor UCI over this team. Like I think that reflects more on UCI than Zero Animosity. As much as I like to joke that, like, oh, UCI doubter from Aloxeo makes this take funny, I do think that UCI is a good team. So for that reason, I still think this is unlikely to happen. However, I really like this take. I think it's a great hot take. It's a fun one about a team we've not talked a ton about. So no, this one's eating good. This is a Gordon Ramsay prepared type shit. You know what I mean?
Oh my god.
Like, it's a 1 Michelin star take. It becomes a 3 Michelin star take if it happens.
Wow. I was going to say this is like the local taco truck that like is really, really good, but like nobody knows about it. And then you go check it out.
Maybe that's a better analogy.
It's like it's your sleeper spot, but it hits every time. And I feel like this is not like the most popular hot take. It's a very actually unpopular hot take. I'd be surprised if like we got 100 calls if anybody else talked about Zero Animosity.
True.
But
okay, you know what? This is the sushi restaurant that serves the giant beers literally right down the street from me. I love them. They're so good.
Okay. It's a sleeper spot.
Yeah, the food's delicious. It's like this family-owned like corner sushi restaurant. Like, it's amazing. All right.
Good take. Thank you very much for the
take.
That
was a good one.
We got one more, and it's from Cubby, and also shout out to Shauna Tonin, who basically had the exact same thing to say.
All right.
This is Cubby calling into my good friends at the Salty Runback pod with my OQ take. I think that Wixie's team, with Dunn, pending Dunn playing, can actually make it through this OQ. That's my hot take. Keep it up with the show, guys. And yeah, good luck.
So Cubby coming into direct conflict with one of our takes from earlier on in the show as well, saying that Friendly Fellas is going to take down Slated Six if Slayer is anything to believe, and then maybe work their way through the OQ.
This one's tough. I've still not done my scouting report on Friendly Fellas, unfortunately. I don't think that's an insanely hot take. I think people have been sleeping on the Friendly Fellas pretty hard coming into this tournament. I mean, like Grapes, I know you didn't even want to put them in contenders. For example, when we did our tier list, and I'm just looking at it and I'm like, I don't know, man. Wixie, Moose Hater, and Griffin are all guys that we have seen play very, very well in the tier 2 space a few years ago. Obviously, it's been a little bit, but like I think this is like a miniature version of the Double Lift team. Now, make it all the way through is tough because I think where I
take out 2 of those top 4.
I think where I get bumped is exactly that. I'm not sure. Well, no, if they win in the upper bracket, they only have to take out 1. But yeah, I still don't know if they can take out. Well, but they did the Citadel, maybe is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like, I still don't know how much to attribute that win to the Citadel choking. And again, like I haven't watched the tape from that specific series yet.
I think,
or at least not closely. I've seen the highlights and shit, but
yeah.
Yeah.
As somebody who clicked through and watched a decent chunk of that series, it felt to me very much like the world where AoE Ginger Turmeric were taking down academy teams, like during that 2022 Proving Grounds, where it seemed like almost like they didn't really the opponents didn't really know what was going on, and then all of a sudden Moose Hater Zach jumps in from 3 screens away, and then Draven ults over your team, and the team fights over, and they won. obviously that's the easiest comparison to make because it is literally two of the same players from that team who really defined their identity. But I really feel like watching them play was a very similar style and a very similar level from what I was seeing from them. Having Dunn come in, I think will be interesting. I've not really seen Dunn play much other than like in solo queue on stream.
Yeah.
I think he's like,
and of course,
a
Gamer
decent...
Girl's kind of smurfed it for them.
Yeah, and Gamer Girl had a really great series as well. So I think Dunn coming in, if he is good, I know he's been on different like rosters. Like I think he was on like the large team. He might have been on like one of the Pick Me Gallia rosters at some point. If he ends up being good, I could see it happening, especially if, you know, stuff that we see out of like Citadel or Tempest, even if they or Respawn, like if their like inconsistencies keep continuing, I could totally see this team like preying. They're almost like the hyenas that are preying on the struggling team. As soon as one guy like trips, they're ready to pounce on top of him and take that spot.
I totally agree. I think this team's in the mix at the very least. I know a lot of people are favoring YBN1 in this matchup. I actually don't think it's so clear. I think Moose Hater is going to dumpster Lunacia, and then we'll kind of go from there. But Wixie is good enough to play against Meech in that bottom lane. Absolutely good enough to play against Meech in that bottom lane. So I like the top side of YBN1 Cubby's also
a little bit better. Or sorry, the top side of Friendly Fell is a little bit better, and the bot lane of YBN1 a little bit better.
I agree. So I think that series is not clear. I will say Cubby's usually a guy that does his homework. So I'm assuming he has a reason to say this. Like I said, I've only like skimmed the VOD so far of the Citadel series enough to see how stupid that series was, but I haven't like really done my scouting report yet. So, I don't know. It's hard to keep coming up with foods, but I think this is another good take. Like, you know what I mean? Like I subscribe, although I don't think I necessarily agree.
This is like the mall Chinese food that it's so good. It costs $8. They pile your plate up, but then you feel a little bit bad afterwards. Like, oh, am I really gonna have this take? Because it means that I'm like doubting on all these other teams that we've been hyping up so much. But I think it's possible. I think that Friendly Fellas could make the run.
I do really like your take that I think if Friendly Fellas make it, it's more indicative of somebody else fucking up. You know what I mean? And I think it's fair to say that.
Because when, AoE Ginger Turmeric, when they played against like a Team Liquid challengers or 100 Thieves challengers, maybe that's when they stumbled a little bit more.
Dude, all I'm saying is TF Blade is not ready for the Moose Hater champion pool. Okay, like near airport against Friendly Fellas.
No, that's what he plays against. That's what he plays against in solo queue every day, though. You know, like
that's true. That's true. But dude, I think Friendly Fellas is the best team to play against near airport for the promotion spot. Like from like a narrative perspective, like, oh god, that'd be so funny. Either that or the Ducky Hitters or Slated Six, just for like the young guns against the old heads. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a good one. I like it, Cubby. But that's gonna do it. Another hour long Salty Runback Part 2. We've just been cooking.
Thanks for all your takes. Really appreciate it, especially to Sean, who had the same take as Cubby, and also like we couldn't really access his audio file super well, and so we want to give him a big shout out, big supporter of us here as well. And yeah, thank you for watching. In addition to that, make sure to subscribe to our Patreon. We also have a new episode of CLOL Office Hours coming out this week where we're going to dive into more of those regional playoffs. And of course, make sure to stay tuned right here as well this Saturday, at least for the first day of OQs. Might have something cooking for that last Sunday. We'll keep you updated on all of our socials.
Yeah, we'll definitely keep you guys updated. Make sure to follow us on all of our social media at Salty Runback NA if you want those updates. At Hotcast, at Speedy Grapes as well. Again, we've been doing a lot of tweeting like on our personals about the OQs, CLOL, all that fun stuff. We'll be talking a lot more about CLOL next week, again, in our headlines probably, as well as things in the regional playoffs continue to develop. And as Grapes mentioned, you've also got office hours if you subscribe at the Extra Salt tier on Patreon. Check out our Discord. It's been popping off more and more and more. Y'all, we had some good memes about the Polestar shit. So if you want to get in on that action, make sure you check out the link in the description. Like, subscribe, and if you think that Friendly Fellas is going to lose, you can take what Cubby said with a grain of salt. I've been Hawk. That's been Grapes. Have a great night, everyone.